Number 8. Novita, Brazil. In October of 2022, 25-year-old Novita Brazil was staying at an Airbnb in San Antonio when she was suddenly shot dead in an onslaught of over 100 bullets. The young woman was sitting at a desk and working at her computer one evening when the senseless murder happened. Another woman who was also staying at the house was injured in the gunfire but survived. Bexar County deputies heard the shooting from nearby and then saw a vehicle speeding out of the area. A brief chase ensued before they caught up to the suspects, who are both minors. They were arrested on suspicion of first-degree murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. One of the youths was also charged with evading arrest on foot, and the other faces an additional count of unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Authorities also arrested 3 other juveniles who are suspected of being involved in the shooting on gun-related charges. Sheriff Javier Salazar said that the suspects meant to shoot someone else but targeted the wrong house, and that the car they were driving was most likely stolen. He told local news outlet My San Antonio that he doesn't think the shooters are remorseful for taking an innocent stranger's life, and that their motive for allegedly committing the shooting is unclear. Number 7. Kanye Eruera Haramate Te Huehue. In 2021, a group of friends gathered at an Airbnb in Christchurch, New Zealand, for a young woman's birthday celebration. What began as a small get-together soon turned into an all-out bash with at least 80 guests in attendance. At some point during the night, a young man named Zion Purakamu and 2 of his friends confronted another guest, Kanye Eruera Haramate Te Huehue. After seeing him kiss a girl who they believed was too intoxicated to consent, Zion told Te Huehue to leave the party, but he refused and a fight broke out. A group of young men chased him off the property and stole his Louis Vuitton bag. The fistfight resumed and Te Huehue pulled a knife and stabbed Zion in the back and abdomen, puncturing his aorta. He then stabbed at least 2 more people, including a partygoer who had no involvement in the brawl. Zion died from his injuries, and the other victims were seriously injured. Witnesses told police that Te Huehue said the victims deserved what happened to them. At the time, he was unaware that Zion's wounds were fatal. Authorities charged him with murder. Te Huehue argued that he stabbed the young men in self-defense, but his claims were rejected in the court of public opinion. The criminal court hearings were extremely heated, with Zion's friends and family regularly shouting obscenities at the defendant and making sure their demands for justice didn't go unheard. Things got even more explosive when the judge allowed Te Huehue to plead guilty to a reduced manslaughter charge and avoid a trial. To say Zion's loved ones were disappointed in the outcome would be an understatement. Te Huehue is scheduled to be sentenced in early 2023. Number 6. Triple tragedy. 28-year-old Candace Florence was at an Airbnb in Mexico City with her friends Cortez Hall and Jordan Marshall when she began to feel unwell. They were visiting from Virginia to celebrate the Day of the Dead in 2022 and had gone out for drinks earlier that night. Based on their social media posts, it appeared as though they had a great time. While they were out, Candace's boyfriend, Victor Day, received some text messages from her indicating that she, Hall, and Marshall were out drinking and that everything was fine. Things took a strange turn a few hours later after they returned to their Airbnb. Victor later told People magazine that Candace sent him some text messages saying that she felt emotional and tired. When he prodded her for more information, she said that she felt drugged even though she hadn't taken any drugs and that she just wanted to go home. She also told Victor that she was shaking and in physical pain. He asked her if it was possible that someone drugged her drink while she was out. She simply said, "I wasn't complacent." A few minutes later, Candace called Victor on video chat and was vomiting violently. They talked for a few more minutes before Victor fell asleep. When he woke up, the call was still going, but Candace was non-responsive and the screen was pitch black. He could hear her getting sick in the background. Despite his girlfriend's concerning symptoms, Victor assumed that she had been drugged and that she was throwing up the toxin she unknowingly ingested. He figured it was a good thing to get the drugs out of her body, and he went to sleep with plans to check on her in the morning. When Candace didn't respond to his texts the next day, he contacted the Airbnb host and asked him to go check on her. They were shocked to discover the young woman and her friends unresponsive. It was too late to save their lives, and it appeared as though they all died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Mexican authorities launched an investigation into the incident and are working to determine how the tragedy occurred. Number 5. Carla Stefaniak. In 2018, Carla Stefaniak celebrated her 36th birthday by taking a girls' trip to Costa Rica with her sister-in-law. She planned to stay one day longer than her sister-in-law and catch a flight back to Hallandale Beach, Florida. After dropping her travel companion off at the airport and returning their rental car, she completed her pre-flight check-in with her airline to confirm that she still planned to travel the next day. She also hired an Uber with plans to go sightseeing. After arriving at her Airbnb that evening, Carla posted online about how the electricity in her room suddenly went out during a storm and that it was making her nervous. During a video chat with a friend, she mentioned that she might ask the property's security guard to buy her a bottle of water to avoid going out in the heavy rain. Carla was an active social media user who stayed in close touch with her friends and family. So when she went radio silent unusually early that night and never returned home, they immediately knew something was wrong. Her brother, Mario Carcedo, told NBC News that the only way Carla wouldn't have made her flight was if she met with foul play. Detectives found blood in her room, and suspicion soon fell on the resort's security guard, Bismarck Espinosa Martinez, who lived in the room next door. He initially claimed that Carla had left the resort the day before she vanished and gave inconsistent stories during questioning. In the meantime, a witness reported that Martinez had confessed to killing Carla. Her remains were found a few days later near the property. Authorities determined that she died from stab wounds and blunt force trauma while trying to defend herself against an attacker. Martinez was convicted of murder and received a 16-year prison sentence. It was a far cry from justice for Carla's family, who had urged the court to impose the maximum sentence of 50 years. Number 4. Mike and Michaela Kennedy. While traveling in northern Spain, British couple Mike and Michaela Kennedy decided to book a small villa in the town of Zaralejo through Airbnb. The home looked clean and comfortable in the photos featured on the listing. It also appeared to be conveniently located and surrounded by well-manicured gardens. They arrived to find that the home was dirty, run down, overgrown, neglected, and filled with dead flies. While they didn't want to stay there, they had nowhere else to go, so they decided to clean the house up and make the most of their 3-day stay. After spending a large portion of their day cleaning up the insects, the Kennedys had an impromptu lovemaking session on the living room sofa. It was probably a nice break from the seemingly endless problems they encountered that day, and which continued through the night when a loud bathroom pump kept them awake. The next morning, the couple were horrified to discover a camera on the living room wall, which appeared to be disguised as an air freshener dispenser. It was facing the sofa that they had gotten intimate on the day before. At that point, Mike and Michaela were too angered and creeped out to stay there any longer. Before leaving, they complained to the property owner about the dead flies. He allegedly told them that it's something they should expect in the countryside. The Kennedys didn't want the owner to know that they were aware of the camera, so they filed a complaint with Airbnb instead. The company fully refunded the couple and suspended the host pending the outcome of an ongoing investigation. Number 3. Tab bowling. Decatur, Alabama has an ordinance banning short-term rentals, making it illegal for people to rent Airbnb properties. But the city's mayor, Tab Bowling, went ahead and listed a house he owns on both Airbnb and Vrbo for as little as $70 per night. He used his middle name, Russell, presumably in hopes that people wouldn't put 2 and 2 together and realized that the listing was his. By then, he had made it clear that he wanted to relax the short-term rental ban. He had even pointed out in at least one meeting that a lot of people were renting out their properties anyway, despite the ordinance, but he never mentioned his own law-breaking. In November 2022, a local newspaper revealed the existence of Bowling's rental home to the public. By then, he had been renting it out for several months. After being exposed, Bowling reiterated his belief that the ban should be repealed. He also owned up to his rule-breaking and said that he would face the consequences while he continues fighting to get rid of the law. Speaking to the Decatur Daily, he admitted that he was embarrassed by the situation, but that he'll just have to man up and deal with it. He also acknowledged that he would probably have to stop renting his guest house out for the time being. Several city council members supported Bowling's call to ease up on the restrictions, but council president Jacob Ladner admonished the mayor's unlawful actions, stating his belief that elected officials should abide by the law, including ones they disagree with, and even if they're actively working to change a policy. Number 2. Alan Price. While planning a vacation with his wife and dog to North Carolina's Blue Ridge Mountains, 41-year-old Alan Price found a renovated motorhome for rent on Airbnb. The person renting the property was a highly rated superhost, so Price went ahead and booked the so-called Blue Ridge bus. He changed his mind about wanting to stay there during the drive when he looked over the rental rules and saw that there was a clause in the fine print stating that the renter agreed to pay a $10,000 fine if they broke the agreement and posted a negative review. The policy set off alarm bells in Price's head. In a later interview with news station WSOC-TV, he said that the rule made him wonder what kind of person would write that in and what ramifications you're going to have. He also felt that the policy was worded in a way that left it open to interpretation, making him worry that he might somehow unintentionally break a rule and be held liable. But even after he cancelled his reservation, Price felt compelled to do more about the issue. He contacted local journalist Jason Stujenki, who got in touch with Airbnb. The company told him that the host violated their policy against extortion and promised to reach out to the owner. The rule was soon removed from the host's terms and conditions on the pages for all 6 of the properties they rent out. Action 9 News tried to contact the host for her side of the story, but she didn't respond to their request for an interview. Stujenki concluded his investigative report by reminding members of the public to always read the fine print, no matter who you book reservations with. Number 1. Sean Thomas Johnson. Sean Thomas Johnson was well liked by his community in Asheville, North Carolina, as a reliable and trustworthy handyman. In 2015, he got his real estate license and became a vacation property manager. Johnson's career came crashing down in 2019 when the North Carolina Real Estate Commission accused him of renting out vacation homes on Airbnb without proper permits and rental agreements, and pocketing money that he owed to the owners of the properties he managed. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit in early 2020, he was slapped with another charge for leasing out a home for non-essential travel. Prosecutors continue to add to the growing list of allegations against Johnson with increasingly serious charges, and he eventually wound up in federal court. He was accused of lying about his finances on more than a dozen real estate loan applications and using the $3.5 million he borrowed, which was mostly meant for financing a primary home, to buy up properties and unlawfully rent them out. There was also evidence that Johnson convinced business partners to take out mortgages in their names so that he could leave his name off the applications and paperwork. He pleaded guilty to federal loan fraud and was awaiting sentencing when he was accused of charging at a man with a machete. The victim had gotten a flat tire along a road where Johnson owns property and left some items on the side of the road with plans to pick them up the next day. When he went to retrieve his belongings, Johnson allegedly rushed at him in a fit of rage and screamed at him to leave the property. Johnson denied threatening the victim and accused the man of squatting on his property. He claimed that he found an encampment and that the victim refused to leave. After seeing cell phone footage of the encounter, a judge issued a warrant for Johnson's arrest. This is just one of several criminal cases that have landed him back in court amid his federal case. According to the most recent update on Johnson's legal issues, he had told the Citizen Times that he would be sentenced to 6 years in prison for the fraud charges as part of a plea deal. Prosecutors declined to comment, and it's unclear where the case currently stands. Thanks for watching. Would you rather stay in a beautiful Airbnb in a high-crime area, or a dirty and foul-smelling Airbnb in a neighborhood with a reputation for being extremely safe? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.